now. All right, we are now recording. One moment. All right. So, Sean, I'm going to go into the trance. And like I said, again, if you can hit the mute button for me whenever you're not speaking, so that'll be right now as well, too. So that'll just help me have more silence. That way I can give you the best quality transmission possible.
Got it.
Okay? Great. So I'll go into the state and then have at it, friend. Sure, Facebook's off. One moment, friend. One moment. All right, and we thank you so much for the co-creation of this interaction. It is our civilization's highest joy, passion, excitement to be able to have this co-creative conversation with you this day of your time. And we extend to you the following question: how are you doing?
I'm doing very good.
How exciting! Now, how would you like to proceed in relationship to this conversation together?
Well, first I want to discuss telekinesis, and after that, I want to move on to some of my information about my incarnations. We'll discuss the Akash, crystals, and a few other things.
All right. So, in relationship to telekinesis, what are you desiring to explore specifically?
Well, I've seen a session where you shared with somebody on how to shift to another version of themselves that has that ability.
Yay.
And first off, I want to know a way to amplify the connection to the other version. Say, for example, maybe using crystals. I'm experimenting with crystals, but I really don't understand what I'm doing with the crystals. Is there a certain method for that?
Well, in relationship to the idea of connecting with the future self or parallel simultaneous incarnation that is exercising the ability you call telekinesis, in relationship to crystals, there are many ways you can explore with amplifying those connections. You can, in that sense, focus upon the heart center as well as the third eye, utilizing stones that link you, so to say, very greatly with your own heart center and with the idea of your pineal pituitary glands, and as a result, the third eye, as you call it, chakra. So stones that can amplify the heart and third eye will be of paramount importance if you are in fact drawn to crystals in relationship to the idea of accessing your awareness of these other selves, whether it be a you in the future of this incarnation or another simultaneous past or future incarnation that is exercising the ability you call telekinesis. Now, some of the things we would encourage you to focus upon in relationship to that skill are the following. Creating a bubble reality. Now, understand, you are already technically in a bubble reality that is, in many ways, mediated and organized by your belief systems. However, many of you create your own unique bubbles of reality, utilizing belief systems that are not necessarily your own and relate to the idea of belief systems from your own collective consciousness. Some of these belief systems can create a inhibitory effect in relationship to exercising the skill of telekinesis, such as the belief that says objects can only move by my will if I directly touch them and directly physically interact with them. Such a collective belief, if it is being utilized within your own bubble of reality, can have a inhibitory effect upon your ability of telekinesis. So ensuring that the belief systems, the narratives that you are utilizing in relationship to that skill are in support and belief of that skill. So that way your unique bubble of reality will be in greater levels of support of that particular skill. In addition to this, ensuring that you are in a space where, in that sense, the energy is more supportive of such a skill. For example, in nature, in the wilderness, so to say, in the forests. These types of environments are, in that sense, very free from the idea of your human collective consciousness, allowing for a greater probability of extraordinary occurrences to occur. For example, if you were in that sense to attempt, while still learning that skill, the skill in the airport location that you are in, you may notice that there is greater challenge in relationship to exercising it. And that has to do again with the collective belief systems of that space. So ensuring that the space you are in is in belief of the skill, is in support of the skill, and that the individuals whom you include in the activity are also in belief and support of that skill. Does that make sense for you thus far?
Yes, it does.
All right, all right. Now understand, in relationship to aligning with those simultaneous selves, utilizing the heart and the third eye, understand that the heart allows for you to feel them, to feel their energy, to feel their emotions, to feel their being. And the third eye allows for you to visualize them, to perceive them with greater clarity. Understand that in relationship to aligning with these other selves, one of the things you can begin to do is to imagine what that self looks like, how that self is acting, how that self is going about utilizing the skill. You can even imagine their past and imagine how they learned the skill. What were the steps that they took? Who were the people they trained with? So on and so forth. The idea is that behind each of the levels of your visualization, there will be a feeling quality associated with that which you are visualizing. It is the heart center that will assist you in understanding that frequency, that felt quality behind the visual. And the idea is when you come out of that visualization exercise, allow for yourself to fully feel the same way you felt when you were experiencing the visualization, keeping that state of being going, allowing for it to change, but holding its essence alive in your heart, and acting that self out, literally, in all that you do. And that will allow for you to, in that sense, hybridize your unique timeline with the timeline of the self that is already a master or an adept of that particular skill, allowing for you to follow in their footsteps, allowing for you to blend your energies with theirs, thus creating a hybrid version of yourself that is a blend of who you experience yourself to be now and these alternative selves that you are aligning with through the visualization. Does this answer the question sufficiently for you?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You are welcome.
All right, next, I would like to know, because as I practice this exercise that you gave, I breathe in essential oils such as lavender, and you said that it impacts the nervous system. So I would like to know, what is the relationship between a healthy nervous system and telekinesis?
Understand that what you consider to be your nervous system is the idea of electrical firings throughout the cells of your body, the organs and their corresponding tissues. And when the nervous system is free-flowing and is not inhibited, so to say, it allows for that electrical current to carry along with it pranic frequencies, subtle energies, thus allowing for the cells that are linked by that nervous system to not only receive electrical impulses, but to also receive psychic impulses. So a smooth flowing nervous system allows for these subtle energies to flow through your body as well. Now understand that your nervous system expands outwardly. It's not just within your body, in the cells and in the organs, but it also organizes what's called a biofield around your system. That biofield is an expression, is an extension of your nervous system. And the idea is when the nervous system in your body flows smoothly, you have a larger biofield. Understand your nervous system and the idea of its ability to flow smoothly or for a stagnation in that sense in the nervous system comes from different types of belief systems. Positive belief systems, positive energies allow for a smoother flow of the nervous system. Negative belief systems, negative energies restrict the flow of the nervous system. And in that sense, the restriction in that flow thus then shrinks, so to say, the biofield. Now understand, you are familiar with the phrase, beliefs create reality. In that sense, your biofield represents, in many ways, the aspects of your physical reality that you are, in many ways, in direct relationship with. Therefore, they represent that which you perceive to be in the bubble around you. The contents of this bubble, so to say, represent the aspects of your physical reality that shift in many ways very immediately. So understand, your nervous system creates the biofield and it carries the energies of the beliefs throughout the body, but also into the biofield. So the belief systems that you are utilizing will have a great deal, so to say, of co-creative effect in relationship to what you experience contained within that biofield. That biofield may contain just your body and potentially the contents of the room you're in relationship to a 6-foot circumference around you, a 6-foot distance around you in all directions. However, if you expand that biofield very large, it allows for your belief systems to have a greater say in relationship to the additional content contained within the biofield from that expansion. Does that make sense so far?
Yes, it does.
All right.
Speaking of, oh, go ahead.
In relationship to how that specifically relates to telekinesis, As you expand the biofield, utilizing the beliefs of those selves you are aligning with that are exercising telekinetic ability, you will then experience, so to say, the reality bubble around you taking on the semblance of the realities of those other selves. And that's how the biofield relates, so to say, to telekinesis.
Okay. And speaking of belief systems, what beliefs about limitation in telekinesis do you perceive in me right now?
We are in some ways detecting belief systems related to fear in respect to if this ability were discovered by large amounts of people. This is the, in that sense, narrative we are experiencing within the idea of your psychology. And the idea would be that there are beliefs about this that create fear due to the negative nature of the beliefs, thus creating the idea of negative limitation. So some of this has to do with the idea of being seen, allowing others to see you fully for who and what you are, and knowing that other beings are an expression or an extension of you. They are made of the same essence you are made of, which is unconditional love, and that there is nothing to fear, and that through realizing that the individuals whom are meant to experience that skill being expressed through you will be drawn to that moment through the idea of synchronicity. And in that sense, they will be complements to you expressing the skill, not hindrance. And that goes for however little people in terms of amounts are watching you, or however many people are watching you.
All right. And how much weight, mass is a human in our current state likely to move?
Please repeat your question one more time.
I'm asking, say an individual was likely to successfully move an object, what is the potential weight or mass that can be moved? Such as the difference between a coin or a table or a car or a huge boulder, a rock?
It doesn't necessarily matter. It only matters in relationship to what you believe is possible. For understand, in relationship to using telekinesis, one of the things that first must occur is the idea of fully matching the state of being of whatever the object is that you desire to utilize the skill upon. That may be a piece of paper, it may be a coin, it may be a piece of tinfoil on a stand, it could even be a rock, but the idea is to fully match the frequency, so to say, of that object. So in that sense, you eliminate the idea of a experience of separation between you and the object. So you literally are the object in terms of your energy, in terms of your frequency. And the idea is from there to begin to experience in yourself the sensation, the felt sensation of the reality where that object is located slightly differently than it appears to be located in your direct experience. So it's imagining that you are that object in terms of your state of being, and that you are that object, but in a different location, in a new location. And in that sense, amplifying that sensation of the preferred location you desire to shift the object. But remember, you're not really moving the object. You are aligning with another probable parallel reality where that object is in a different space. So understand that transition process will happen through the path of resistance. It may occur through you moving that object. However, through telekinesis, it can also occur, so to say, through instantaneous shifting from that object moving from one location to another. Now, to get a feel for that, you may actually have to go up a few times and move the object. And that will help you understand the feeling of that shifting. And eventually, through the understanding of what that feels like, you will, in that sense, be able to bypass the idea of that mechanical movement process, which represents the preliminary path of least resistance, to an instantaneous shift, which would then become the path of least resistance, because you will have, by that point, more greatly understood what it feels like for an object to move from one place to the next, thus allowing for you to hold that frequency in your knowledge base so you can bypass it as a process, experiencing instantaneous shift. In many ways, what you call telekinesis is very similar, if not identical, to teleportation. Oftentimes, though, in telekinesis, there is the experience of more frames that relate to movement. In teleportation, however, you experience less frames and a complete jump. So you will find that these skills are technically one and the same. It's simply a matter of how many frames you prefer to use in the idea of the shifting of your perspective in regards to the location of the object.
Okay, I see. Next question is shape shifting. You
All
shared
right.
an exercise on how to do that, and obviously this could be very useful in developing telekinesis. But the question is, what sort of entities would be ideal to shapeshift into? To
Yes. Yes, two. Please complete your thought.
yeah, to advance telekinesis.
In relationship to that skill, dolphin consciousness, bat consciousness, to name a few. And this has to do with the idea of the ability you call echolocation. The ability, in that sense, to pulse the nervous system in a particular way that allows for you to very greatly experience the felt quality of the object, the signature frequency of the object you are preferring to utilize the telekinetic skill upon. The sonar, the echolocation, this allows, in that sense, for the nervous system to beam, to ping off of the object back to the sender, allowing for them to understand the nature of that object. And that allows for you to understand its frequency, so you can, in that sense, more greatly match its frequency.
Okay, I see. I see. And finally, I'd like to know how I can use the telekinesis exercise in general and apply that to any other abilities that I want to develop, the shifting to another version. So I'm just basically asking how I can craft my own meditations or exercises using the same principle of shifting. So, for example, if I want to learn how to, I don't know, heat an object up with my mind, teleport it, whatever that ability is, using the basic principle that you shared.
Yes. Well, the idea is, of course, as we have said, to imagine the self that's able to do that, what that self feels like, what their process is, and emulate that with no expectation of it needing to occur. Live that out. You can apply that for any skill you desire yourself to experience. Any skill, whether that be singing, whether that be dancing, whether that be the idea of channeling. Understand that if you have the ability to imagine a self that can do it, you can also imagine their process, you can also imagine their path, you can also imagine their future, and all of that has a felt quality. And in that way, your parallel self that you align with will show you the way, will show you the steps. And understand they will also, through the idea of interacting with that self, share with you synchronicities that allow for you to experience unexpected shortcuts in relationship to exploring that skill. But living as if you are them and acting as if you are them allows for you to more greatly tune into their frequency, so your reality experience can hybridize with theirs, thus allowing for a particular gateway of manifestation to open, so you may experience that unfoldment in your own life. So it will look different depending on the skill. and depending on the self you're aligning with in relationship to that desired skill.
All right, understood. Thanks. Okay, now I want to move on to parallel incarnations, the Akash. Uh, can you read into my Akash and see if there are any incarnations that would be relevant to my life right now?
There are quite a few we are tuning into. You have two major incarnational selves, so to say, parallel in nature, that are working with you intimately. One is related to the idea of what you consider to be reptoid consciousness, reptilian consciousness. And this being, in that sense, is assisting you in understanding very amplified expressions of psychic and intellectual power. And this, in many ways, represents where some of the desires, in that sense, to explore these psychic abilities are paralleled, for this self is utilizing such abilities. Another self that is working with you is the idea of a cetacean self, of Sirius, that is assisting you in the blossoming of the skill you consider to be telepathy, which again is essentially what we are assisting you in developing through the exercise of visualization with felt qualities that we have described to you thus far. But these are two parallel incarnational selves that we are detecting have more immediate relevance for you.
What is the best way for me to create a psychic link and communicate with them?
Well, again, the exercise that we have presented to you will be sufficient. Allow for yourself to go into a meditative space where you're relaxed. You can play, for example, the idea of certain music that relates to binaural beats, or you can meditate in a more natural environment and you can listen to the natural sounds around you. This can be of service. You can also, in that sense, specifically listen to the songs of dolphins in relationship to this Sirius cetacean parallel self. And you will find that through going into deep states of relaxation while listening to these sounds, you will be able to more greatly let go of your perspective of the physical reality, so you can more powerfully experience your inner depths, your inner dimensions. As you become more aware of your inner depths and inner dimensions, that's when you can begin to go into the visualization process of exploring contact with these beings. Staying in the relaxed state, in a state of love and joy, will allow for you to very easily feel these beings. It will allow for you to very easily perceive their messages. They may communicate to you with feelings, with thoughts, with images. Allowing for yourself to engage this process with the felt quality of the unknown will allow for your doors of perception to remain open, so you can very easily perceive the idea of the subtle messages that they are communicating with you. Having a piece of paper with you and a pencil, so after the meditation, you can write down what you experienced. For you may find that when you emerge from the meditation, it will be similar to the sensation of waking up from a dream. So ensuring you have something with you to capture the idea of the communication, of the connection, will be of service.
Okay, and when I identify some qualities that I may what is the best way to integrate them into my life right now, whether they're qualities of a darker or a lighter polarity?
One of the ways to integrate these qualities of the other beings within yourself is to explore the idea of, in your connections with them, to observe in yourself what you find emerges in the greatest clarity for you. So in that sense, you may find that certain feelings emerge within you when you align with these other selves. They may be feelings of joy, or they may be less comfortable feelings of what you might consider to be more negative or non-preferred emotions. Regardless of what shows up within you, to integrate these qualities, address these qualities with the felt sensation of love and joy. That sensation of love and joy is like an alchemical fire that cooks the quality and breaks it down so you can process it and consume it and digest it and integrate it. So if it's a quality of love and joy that you imagine in the other self, apply your own love and joy towards that quality, to amplify it, to grow it, to process it, and to absorb it, so to say, into yourself. If it is a quality that represents negativity, apply the same technique. Utilize the fire of your love to process and break down the idea of that less preferred quality. And as you, in that sense, purify it with that fire to its most fundamental element, you will find that beneath all of the darkness, at the core, is your own energy, is your own power that was simply camouflaged by the dark quality. But the fire of the heart illuminates the darkness, it purifies that quality till it is at its most basal form, which is your fundamental energy. And that, in many ways, allows for you to experience deep integration. Once you have brought it to its base element of love, then allow for yourself to take that theme that the quality was originally showing you and demonstrate in your life a positive action that you can take that represents the expression of that quality in love, in joy. That might be observing another individual who is demonstrating that darker quality and treating them with love. That might be when you notice a certain challenge comes up in your life that represents that quality, that you treat that quality with love, and that will in many ways demonstrate to your higher self the integration, thus allowing for you to shift to a version of yourself that has always and has already integrated it. Was that clear for you? Did that make sense?
Yes, it does.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
And what is a good method to access the Akash or collective consciousness in the same way that you do?
Well, in relationship to the frequencies of the Akashic record that we most directly access, it relates to the idea of your planet, because in that way we are interacting with you and your species. So the nature of the information that you inquire about, in that sense, is linked very much to your own planet. So we are, in relationship to the Akashic record, when we interact with you, we are tuning into the idea of the inner earth crystalline matrices of your planet. We delivered last night of your time a transmission on this and how to access the idea of this Akashic record. However, in general, the idea is to link your consciousness with the crystalline matrices of your planet, and from there you can access the idea of anything that has existed on Earth, anything that does exist on Earth, and anything that is probable to exist on Earth from that link. Now, understand the qualities of the information that is most relevant for you to know is what will be revealed. Even though you have access to all frequencies, so to say, of your Earth experience, you can only access that which is truly relevant for you. So if it's not relevant for you, it may not be something that you detect or experience directly through that link, and that's all right. Now, understand that when we are reading the energies of other realities, of other beings, we are in that sense tuning in to the idea sometimes of the crystalline matrices of other planets, and sometimes we are tuning into the idea of bone so to say, of beings, as well as the idea of the genetics of the skeletal cells that make up the skeleton in relationship to how we read what you call the Akashic record of other beings, of other species, of other worlds. And we also do this with your species as well, in addition to reading the idea of the crystalline matrices of your planet. For in that sense, your skeleton is an extension of that very matrix. For non-physical consciousness, we are in that sense tuning into the idea of the signature frequency of that being's essence. For they have in that sense no physical, so to say, Akashic record in the same way that all of you do. So we tune in more directly to their energy. And it is in that sense a little easier sometimes for us to read, because it is rather straightforward. Now, sometimes non-physical consciousness will have certain anchor points into other realities, such as quasi-physical realities, what you call your astral realms, as well as the idea of your physical realities. And sometimes to access the Akashic record of these non-physical beings, we will, in that sense, access the physical anchor points of those beings as well, in addition to their essence. It depends on the nature of the being. It depends on the nature of the information. However, these are the types of symbols that we align with, energetically speaking, whilst we do our readings.
Okay, and if I was to successfully tap into the Akash the same way that you do, how would that information come? What would it look like?
It depends on what's most relevant for you. It might come through the idea of instantaneous knowledge. It may come through the idea of thought, of feeling. And sometimes if it comes through a feeling or even an image, oftentimes there is a process that's involved with what you have received that allows for you to process and play with those energies so you can translate them into understanding. So it will come in whatever way it needs to. You may access the Akashic record and present a question of inquiry, and you may find very little emerges. However, in a week's time, you may find you are scrolling on your internet or you're talking to a person, and all of a sudden the answer to your question emerges. It will come through in whatever way it needs to. It may come through internally, through one of your inner senses, or it may come through a synchronicity externally, immediately, or at another period of time. It truly depends on, again, what's relevant for you in your process. But remember, you're always interacting with the Akashic record because you literally are the Akashic record. It lives in you. It lives in all things. It is all things. So you're already accessing it. What we are sharing with you in these techniques and in these understandings are symbols that you can utilize to allow for that record to be more conscious to you. For it is a living record that lives and breathes through you.
Okay, thanks.
Yay!
All right. Next, I've been interacting with a reptilian collective through a channeler, and I was asking them how to embody more of their frequency, and they made it pretty clear that to be careful because embodying too much can close down my heart.
Yay!
So they mentioned calibrating and paying attention to the difference, so I don't end up causing myself maybe a heart attack or something. So how can I strike a balance between the two?
That is why we also presented the idea of the Sirius Cetacean parallel incarnation to you, for they are very heart-based. That is why you experience dolphins rescuing humans and demonstrating qualities of emotional intelligence that parallel that of your species. They have a very open heart, and they use that heart to communicate with one another telepathically in a very deep way, in a way that actually transcends the telepathic potential of what you call reptoid species. They also have a telepathic link, but it's less vivid, it is less saturated, it is less high definition because of the idea of that less opened heart quality. Although understand that many factions within that species are also training with beings of Sirius, as well as other civilizations such as the Pleiades, to open the heart to create the idea of a new direction of evolution for their kind. Now, not all factions within that species are choosing this, but there are a great deal that are, for they represent in that way your own shadows emerging into light.
All right. This species that I've been interactive with has a desire to gain more from humans through emotions. At the same time, they were speaking about connecting with my consciousness and overtaking it, um, especially when I'm connecting more of my reptilian brain. I'm just trying to understand if I'm giving them or any other species consent to do this, what risk am I taking? How could this be dangerous to me? Um, what direction might this lead?
Well, understand, they're never overtaking you. Even though they may use that terminology, it's not accurately representing the idea of mechanically what's occurring. This, in many ways, represents a blend of your human understanding and also a blend of their collective understanding as well. For in that sense, the illusion is that another being can overtake you. And that's actually how some of the more negative aspects of this species, the different factions, create the experience of siphoning power from other beings, because the beings they're siphoning power from believe that they can be taken advantage of, they can be overtaken. So this has to do with linguistics and certain understandings. You can never truly be overtaken, but you can create the experience of it by matching the frequency of the self in the illusion of being overtaken. What's truly happening is the idea of you matching the frequency of the reptilian consciousness. And that allows for you to experience the idea of their energy from your center. So you're grounded, so you're rooted, and so you have that idea of what your center signature frequency energy is, thus allowing for you from that center point to perceive in 360 degrees the consciousness that you are interacting with, represented here as the reptilian. So they'll never truly overtake you, although you can create that experience. However, understand that to create that experience in that way would engender effects that you would likely consider to be non-preferred, because that experience comes from the place of disempowerment that I can be overtaken. Something can, in that sense, override my will, override my consciousness. But that's not the case. You can create the experience of it through believing in that and matching that frequency, but ironically, you are using your unlimited and unconditionally powerful will to do so. Does that answer the question for you?
Yes, it does. And one more on this topic. No matter how dark or light the reptilian entities may be, if I was to gauge in this type of interaction with them, this could possibly be very expansive to my consciousness and development.
Yes, if you approach it from an energy of expansion, which again is positive energy, the energy of unconditional love, your signature frequency, then you can only derive a positive effect. So if you approach them with a positive belief, a positive energy, and positive action, it can literally only be expanding to your consciousness because you're creating them. You're creating your experience of them. They don't necessarily exist outside of you as a separate entity. They are their own beings, just as you are your own being and other beings are their own beings. But all of this exists within you. It's all a different expression of your energy, of your consciousness. So when you approach yourself, the mirror of creation, with love and a positive belief and positive action, the mirror can only reflect back to you a positive effect no matter what it initially looks like. But the idea is to stay in the positive state during the process and after the process, so that way you can experience a like vibration in relationship to the experiential effect derived. Does that answer the question sufficiently for you?
Were you able to hear me?
Please repeat what you had said. We were unable to hear your words.
I said it answers the question. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Okay. Now I'd like to move on to the chakra system. Do you see any imbalances in my chakra system right now at the moment?
One area we are detecting is the idea of the sacral and the solar plexus, primarily. In terms of energy centers related to feeling, emotion, creativity, in relationship to sacral and the idea of empowerment, worth, value, in terms of the solar plexus, as well as the quality of will. Understand that you can balance these energies very easily through simply expressing yourself in creative ways that are fun and exciting for you. For understand, when you express yourself in creative ways, based in love, joy, and passion, you are actually demonstrating your power. You are utilizing your will. So through expressing yourself creatively, in a state of passion and joy, you will also alchemize the idea of the solar plexus chakra, thus allowing for you to experience an integration of both centers. So, in other words, have fun and use your fun creatively, because that, in many ways, from our perspective, is part and parcel with the idea of the purpose of your existence, which is to simply be you, to be yourself. And part of that process is expressing yourself in all of the ways that you are creatively inspired to do so.
Yes, and deep down inside, that's exactly what I want to do, especially when I'm interacting with people or if I meet a girl and I'm wanting to communicate with her what type of person I really like, but a lot of times these things that have something to do with consciousness that the most people aren't really ready for, it's hard to express that without confusing this individual
Okay.
or
Okay. Well, understand that the belief that you will confuse them, the belief that you will push them away, actually crystallizes that effect in your experience with them. Because that idea is an expectation, so to say, on what will occur should you reveal such information. And this has to do, again, with certain, what you might call past lives, whom in that sense swore to keep this type of information secret out of the fear that it would be harmful if it were ever shared. Now understand, a past self is just that, another self. However, many of you, from the soul connection, will, in one of your lifetimes, align with the energies of your past selves, and sometimes you'll align with the energies of those past selves that are not fully based in love, but you do that presently through the idea of creating similar beliefs and similar energies in your present incarnation. So if you shift the belief and you shift the energy, you will in that sense align with a different alternate self, whom in that way may be a future self, who in that sense is also in a relationship with an individual who loves and accepts them, regardless of whatever interests or passions they may have. So understand, you can align with those alternate selves of other incarnations and even your own future selves of this incarnation, whom are in such relationships that are based in acceptance. For you may find that individuals in your reality may be very into things that seem to not really inspire you or are not really aligned with your passions, but that doesn't mean that you are confused, and it doesn't mean that you push them away or leave them. You recognize that's simply an area that you do not resonate with them about. But you will find there are other areas of resonance, of attraction, of chemistry that you can explore with them. And that's all well and good. And the idea is, through letting go of such an expectation that your interests will push one away or will turn one off, can actually allow for you to manifest a relationship with another individual whom sees those qualities in you and also accepts them and is excited by them. One of the ways you can begin to explore this is through the idea of embodying that quality of acceptance and appreciation within yourself, about yourself, and about the interests that you have. And that will allow for you to experience those qualities in yourself in non-judgment, so you can then experience individuals externally who also reflect that non-judgment back to you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, now let's talk about the function of the crown chakra.
All right.
And how it is useful to incorporate in my other chakra balancing exercises.
All right. The crown chakra, in that sense, is a door that links you in many ways to higher frequencies, higher dimensions, what you might consider to be your astral realms, your quasi-physical realms, your non-physical realms, your upper spiritual realms, all the way to what you consider to be source consciousness. It links you to the idea of all that is known and all that is unknown. And through the crown chakra, you have the ability to download, through bringing energy down from the crown into your body, allowing for the higher frequencies to more greatly tune your body to allow your system to be a greater match for the signature frequency of your higher self, of your soul, of your oversoul, of your soul group, and so on and so forth. So in that way, you have the ability to use the crown chakra as a form of resonation for your system, to allow for your system to resonate more greatly with the higher frequencies that represent the true you, the true self, the fundamental essence. The crown chakra has a great deal of other functions as well that relate to astral projection, that relate to the idea of feeling that oneness, feeling that unified field that links you with all beings. There are other functions as well, but we feel this is a very good starting point for you in terms of information.
Okay, so when I am ready to perceive and enter those other areas of consciousness using the crown, how do I stimulate the crown?
Breathing into it, imagining that it is an orifice, like your mouth or nose, and breathing through it, down from the crown into your body, breathing back up, and imagining that the beginning of your breath, so to say, is in that sense above the crown, and as you inhale, you breathe from above you into the body from the crown. But with every respiration, you can make the origin point of that breath higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. So it's as if you are climbing a stairway to heaven with each inhalation. Does that make sense so far?
Yes, it does.
Now, understand that to really root this energy, it would be beneficial to make sure that as you inhale and bring it into your body, that you bring it deeper into your body with each breath. You can eventually bring it so deep that it goes from your perineum, the pelvic floor, down into the earth on the inhale. So you're inhaling from high above straight through you into your earth. And then on your exhale, you're exhaling from your earth up through the perineum, up through the crown, back to that higher origin point. Then you climb higher. And each breath will equally link you with dimensions and densities that are, locationally speaking, as a symbol above and below you.
All right, I got it. And as far as, because I work on my third eye as often as I can, I was wondering how I could produce more DMT without ingesting any psychedelics. That's not my thing. I'd rather do it naturally. So do you have any suggestions suggestions for that?
Natural foods, particularly foods such as your blueberries, your beets, like your beetroot, small amounts of cacao, the idea of raw chocolate, certain mushrooms, such as what is known as ling shi or reishi mushroom, as well as chaga mushroom, will all have a stimulatory effect on particularly the pineal gland. However, in particular, one of the things you can do is simply meditate upon the idea of the pineal, breathing into the pineal. That will also stimulate the idea of dimethyltryptamine production, as well as the idea of deep yogic breathing exercises, going into very powerful states of being that represent the spirit world, that represent altered forms of consciousness, and combining that sensation, that feeling with your breath, with your breathing. For in addition to your pineal gland, your lungs also produce dimethyltryptamine in greater amounts, as does your liver. So the consumption of these foods will stimulate the dimethyltryptamine production in the pineal as well as the liver, and the breathing exercises will amplify dimethyltryptamine production in the lungs.
All right, I got it. Thanks.
Yay!
Now, all right, now I want to use the last bit of this time to discuss the Moldavite and the civilization associated with the Moldavite.
One of the major civilizations that is psychically linked to the Moldavite stone is the civilization you know as Arcturus. Pleiadians also have an association with the Moldavite as well. There are certain reptilian factions that are beginning to work with it. However, it's such a powerful heartstone that they have to approach it with great pace. For if they rush it, it in many ways can be a bit of a shock to their system. But in general, beings of Arcturus and beings of the Pleiades gravitate to the Moldavite stone. For it opens up, in particular, the heart, the lungs, and the pineal. It stimulates these areas in very great amounts, and to some extent the liver as well, and can actually work as an amplifier in your exploration of enhanced dimethyltryptamine production, particularly in combination with the breathing exercises.
Yes, that was going to be my next question. So basically, the method to actually use it would be incorporating the breath, of course, like you said, and other than that, just pretty much holding it in your hands and focusing your intent on connecting with these civilizations, or what?
Precisely, yes. Holding it in your hands, or if you wish, wearing it as a necklace, or holding it at your heart level, heart center level, or laying on your back with it laying on the heart center can also assist you, because again, without the heart connection, the ability to perceive the underlying energy of these other beings is limited. It becomes more intellectualized through the third eye. But when the heart is opened, it allows for that felt connection to then stimulate the third eye, so the visuals then have a felt quality, allowing for greater high definition in the connection. So using the Moldavite specifically on the heart will assist you in that sense in experiencing the felt connection between you and the other beings and the civilizations that you visualize. In that way, you can go into a deep altered state through holding the Moldavite at the heart in any of the ways we've mentioned and doing breathing exercises. And as it feels that your energy begins to peak from the breathing exercises, allow for yourself to cease the exercise and go into relaxation. And then go into the visualization process, go into the connection process. The breathing will charge you with the Moldavite, so you can, in a very amplified way, with greater clarity and relaxation, experience that felt connection with these other species.
All right, thanks. I will do that. And
Hey,
finally, based on what you've read from my energy so far, all the knowledge that I have, all that I tend to do, how would you gauge my level of development at this point, or my level of acceleration? How fast I'm accelerating? Could you?
all right. We will share a few things with you on this. However, we are at the time limit. What we'll say to you is the following. Your evolution is infinite. If it is of service to you, observe yourself as both an infant and a master at different polarities of age, because that represents your process. You are both learning from a new point of view in a new incarnation as a new self, but you have already, in that sense, mastered and understood from other points of view as other selves that which you're learning here. And as you open the heart more, you accelerate that evolution. The heart will accelerate the idea of this process. The love accelerates this process because it generates heat. Heat generates movement. The love of your heart is the driving force behind your evolution. But you are both. You are, in that sense, the novice and the master simultaneously. Does that answer your question sufficiently?
Yes, it does. Everything you said pretty much helps, and I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
You are quite welcome, and we appreciate you so much, dear one. Our unconditional love to you always. We thank you for the co-creation of this interaction. Good day.
Likewise.
All right, great. Sean, thank you so much, brother.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always a pleasure listening to your recordings, and now I had the chance to do a session with you. I'm pretty excited.
Excellent, man. Was it, did you enjoy the session? Was it what you were looking for?
It's probably going to be the most exciting thing I've done today, if not all week.
Oh, great, man. Great. Well, I appreciate that feedback, dude. That means a lot. I would stay in chat for a little bit longer, but I have a session that I'm running behind with. It's been a busy day. So I'm going to sign off. But brother, unconditional love and appreciation to you, and have a great adventure wherever you find yourself traveling, my friend.
I appreciate it. Likewise.
Awesome, brother. I'm going to stop this recording.